So when it comes to points and miles, air travel is a key part of that equation. And so you would think that airline credit cards would be the best way to earn these points and miles for that next great first or business class airline redemption. Well, it turns out that's definitely not the case. And in this video, I'm going to explain why. Now, before you start gushing about your favorite airline credit card, yes, I understand that there are certainly going to be exceptions. For example, the Bank of America Alaska Airlines card is a pretty powerful $95 annual fee card with an annual companion fare as well as a free first check bag for you and up to 6 guests on the same itinerary, among other perks. Another notable exception is the Chase Aeroplan card, which usually has a pretty solid welcome offer as well as some useful multiplier categories for a card with a $95 annual fee. And on that topic, I also want to point out that even though most airline credit cards suck, they can still be a great way to reach your travel goals if you earn the welcome offer on that card in the first year. But for the major US airlines, many of their credit card products are just not that good. And in this video, I'm going to focus on 3 specific carriers: Delta, United, and Southwest Airlines. And the reason I've chosen these 3 airlines is that their credit cards each exhibit one or more key characteristics that makes airline credit cards less desirable than a comparable hotel card or general credit card that earns a flexible points currency. Now, I know that American Airlines is another major US carrier, but since I haven't flown them within the last few years, I don't have a lot of experience with them. And so that's why I'm going to focus on the 3 airlines I just mentioned for this particular video. I'll be the first to admit that I'm not an expert on air travel, but I've done my fair share of traveling domestically. I look back on all the flights I took last year, and in 2023, I flew on Delta Airlines twice, United Airlines once, and Southwest Airlines 57 times. So clearly I have a lot more experience on one airline as compared to the other 2. But it goes a little further than that because I've also held a credit card with each airline as well. Over the past few years, I've held the Delta Reserve Card 747 edition, which I canceled last year, the United Explorer card, which was downgraded to the United Gateway card, and the Southwest Priority card, which was also ultimately canceled. Now again, this doesn't make me an expert on all of these airline credit cards and programs, but I've had to make choices concerning these cards, and for the most part, I've determined that most airline credit cards are not worth it except for the cases I mentioned previously. To keep things simple, I'm only going to be talking about the personal versions of these airline credit cards, and the first airline we're going to be talking about is going to be Delta Airlines. And there have been tons of changes to the Delta SkyMiles program, so let's first start with their credit cards, and all of them are issued by American Express. We have the Delta Blue card, Delta Gold card, Delta Platinum card, and the Delta Reserve card. And here are the annual fees on each of these cards. Of course, we're all familiar with the new welcome offer language on the Delta family of cards, where if you want to get each welcome offer, you'd have to get the lowest card first and then proceed in ascending order. Now, the first thing to know about airline credit cards is that the multipliers are terrible. For the Delta Blue and Delta Gold cards, you get 2x miles on Delta purchases, 2x miles on selected categories depending on the card, and then 1x miles on everything else. The Delta Platinum and Reserve cards follow a similar multiplier structure, but you get 3x miles on Delta purchases instead, which is better than the 2 lower tier cards, but not by much. If you had, for example, the American Express Platinum card, you could earn 5x points back on flights, which of course includes Delta flights, earning you not only more points per dollar spent on these flights, but also points that can be used at Delta or with other transfer partners with American Express as well. So you can see that these Delta cards aren't really for spending, so if that's the case, what are they good for? Well, luckily, the Gold, Platinum, and Reserve cards offer other travel perks such as priority boarding, and they offer a first check bag free benefit, which are 2 reasons to consider having these cards. Of course, priority boarding is pretty nice, so you can secure that overhead bin space when you board your flight, but this is a somewhat intangible benefit. The one that we can measure using dollars is that first check bag benefit, which offers you and up to 8 of your family or friends on the same itinerary to have that free first check bag. As check bags on Delta are typically $30 per bag per flight segment, you can see how quickly the savings can add up and may very easily offset the annual fee you pay on each card, depending on how often you check bags when flying with Delta. But a very cool feature about this perk is that you don't have to pay for your Delta flight on your Delta credit card to get this benefit. So if you had a card with a higher flight multiplier like the American Express Platinum, as I mentioned earlier, you could still get these benefits offered on these Delta cards without actually using the cards themselves. So now that we've covered the multipliers, the next point I want to make about airline credit cards is that lounge access on these airline credit cards are starting to get more restrictive. And what better program to represent this than the Delta Sky Clubs, which underwent many recent changes, some of which have started at the beginning of this year. Now for Delta, there are a few ways to get into a Delta Sky Club, which includes purchasing an annual Sky Club membership, booking a Delta One first or business class ticket on Delta Airlines, or having the American Express Platinum or Delta Reserve card. As of right now in 2024, you still have unlimited access to Delta Sky Clubs with the Delta Reserve and Amex Platinum cards, but this will be changing starting on February 1st, 2025. At that time, Delta Sky Club access on the Delta Reserve will drop to 15 days per year, and access on the Platinum card will drop to 10 days per year, and then you'll have to pay $50 per visit per person after that. Of course, you could always earn unlimited Sky access to Sky Clubs by spending $75,000 per year on these cards, but this restriction makes it much harder to obtain unlimited Sky access unless you buy it outright through an annual plan. And the Delta Reserve card also offers access to American Express Centurion lounges, but you'll need to be flying Delta on your trip, and you must also book your Delta flight on your Delta Reserve card. Now, of course, the above restrictions are only specific to Delta Sky Clubs, but as more lounges open up, like Capital One lounges, Chase Sapphire lounges, and even Priority Pass lounges, in my opinion, these new lounges somewhat decrease the value of the lounge perks offered on airline credit cards. Of course, Delta Sky Clubs are amazing, no question about that. So if you want access through the Delta Reserve card, you gotta do what you gotta do. But when it comes to the Delta Airline credit cards, it only makes sense to get any of these cards if you fly Delta frequently and can take full advantage of the perks they offer, especially priority boarding and the first check bag free benefit. Okay, so as we just discussed, airline credit cards have weak multipliers, and this is also true on the United credit card lineup, which is issued by Chase Bank. We have the Chase United Gateway, Explorer, Quest, and Club Infinite cards, and here are the annual fees associated with each card. And just like the Delta cards, the multipliers on the United cards are not that great either. The United Gateway and Explorer cards earn 2x miles on United, 2x miles on various select categories, and 1x miles on all other purchases, while the United Quest and Club Infinite cards earn higher multipliers for United purchases with 3x miles back on the United Quest card and 4x miles back on the United Club card. 4x miles back on United purchases is pretty good, especially if you purchase United flights often. But of course, this is on the United card with the highest annual fee of $525. Now, the United lounges, also known as United clubs, are similar to Delta Sky Clubs in that you need to have the highest tier card for access, for example, the United Club card, fly on a business or first class flight on United, or have an annual membership to enter. But what's nice about United is that you can also purchase a day pass even if you don't have the United Club card, or use the 2 free passes that come with the mid-tier United Explorer card. And since a United Club day pass costs $59 per person, just using these 2 passes more than makes up for the $95 annual fee on this card. And as of the recording of this video, the United Club card offers unlimited membership to the United Club, so if you frequent United lounges, this is a great card to have for that. But as we just discussed, the multipliers aren't really that great on the United cards either, so what other perks on these cards could we use? Well, starting with the Explorer card, this card offers priority boarding and a free first check bag for you and a guest flying on the same itinerary. But unlike the Delta cards, you must purchase your flight on the United Explorer card to get access to these benefits. The same is true for the United Quest and Club Infinite cards, but these cards both offer a free first and second check bag for the primary cardholder and up to 1 guest. And with each check bag costing $35 on United, this is a great way to recoup the cost of those higher annual fee credit cards, just like on the Delta cards, and the savings can add up very quickly. But there is one small problem here that we haven't yet discussed, and that is what happens when you get airline status as a frequent traveler. With United, Premier status starts at Premier Silver and goes up to Gold, Platinum, and 1K. Starting with the lowest tier status at Silver, you can see that this status offers a number of helpful travel perks, including priority boarding and a complimentary check bag with economy flights. Going even further with Premier Gold, you can get up to 2 complimentary check bags with economy flights, and with Premier Platinum and 1K, this gets you up to 3 complimentary check bags. So we can see that if you even meet the first tier of airline status, you start to get overlapping benefits if you have an airline credit card. And this brings me to another point why airline credit cards suck, and that's because the perks that make these airline credit cards worth having overlap with airline status. So if you fly frequently with a particular airline, you need to figure out if the status you have offers the same perks as the airline credit cards that you have too. And if it does, is that airline credit card worth keeping? And this point brings us to our next airline and group of credit cards, which is Southwest. Now, Southwest Airlines is different from the other major US carriers like Delta and United in many ways, but specifically for our purposes, they offer 2 free check bags to everyone, and they don't have their own branded lounges. So because of this, free check bags and lounge access aren't offered on their credit cards, so Southwest has to be a little more creative to offer value. And the Southwest credit card lineup is offered by Chase Bank, and this includes the Plus, Premier, and Priority cards. There isn't a no annual fee option in their lineup, and to illustrate this, here are the annual fees associated with each card. Just like the other airline cards, the multipliers are just not that great, with all cards earning 3 points on Southwest purchases, 2 points on specific categories, and 1 point on all other purchases, with the exception of the Plus card, which only earns 2 points per dollar spent on Southwest. Now, when it comes to the Southwest and United credit cards, only the United Club card has a higher 4x multiplier for airline spend. So if we compare this to the higher tier Chase Sapphire Reserve card, or even the mid-tier Chasing Preferred card, with both cards earning 3x points back on travel in the form of Ultimate Rewards points, these cards are a lot more flexible options for airline spending, since you can transfer them to Southwest, United, or any of the other Chase transfer partners. But if you really wanted to get one of these Southwest cards, in my opinion, you either go big or go home. So the Southwest Priority card would be the one to get, and it's actually not a bad card. The card offers 7,500 anniversary points each year, a $75 annual Southwest travel credit, and 4 upgraded boardings, each worth about $30 a piece, or $120 total in value for that perk alone. So if we count those perks against the $149 annual fee on the Priority card, you can see that if you use each one, this can bring you positive value on the card every year, making it a keeper card. But here's where I see the problem, and I had this exact issue when I had this card myself. What it comes down to is you're essentially prepaying for Southwest perks on this card, meaning you're in the hole with the annual fee, and now you have to dig out of it by using the credits on the card. And I know what you're thinking. Well, Stan, that's every credit card with any kind of annual fee and statement credit these days. And you're right, but it just hits different when it's on an airline credit card because, as we've just discussed, there's really no reason to spend on these cards, especially if you have an alternate travel card with similar or better multipliers like the Amex Platinum or Chase Sapphire Reserve. For example, with hotel credit cards, the Marriott Bonvoy Brilliant card earns 6x points back on Marriott hotels, and the Amex Hilton Honors Aspire card earns 14x points back on Hilton hotels. So in this situation, at least there's a reason to book hotels on these cards, which is much different than airline credit cards as we've discussed earlier. Now, having said that, as the United cards only offer travel perks when you book your itinerary on those cards, you should do so, but then you'd be foregoing the flexibility of earning UR points on the Chase Sapphire Reserve if you had that card as well. So going back to the Southwest Priority card, mathematically, you do come out ahead if you use all the travel perks provided, and here's the approximate math and value on that. But as this card has weaker multipliers for flights, if you have an American Express Platinum card, you'd be buying Southwest flights on that card instead, making the Southwest Priority card's only purpose to generate statement credits for you to deal with. And if that's something you're willing to manage, then that's fine. But in my case, I'd rather spend my time managing something more valuable like free on awards on my hotel credit cards, which bring me much more comfort, satisfaction, and value. And so those are my thoughts on airline credit cards. Again, depending on your travel patterns and loyalty to a specific airline, you may find that one or more of these cards are a great fit anyways, and you could definitely get a ton of value. But if you're a frequent flyer, chances are that a lot of the basic perks on airline credit cards, especially the priority boarding and free check bag benefit, no longer can be counted for value, as you can get them already with entry-level status tiers like the United Premier Silver tier or Delta Silver Medallion. And if that's the case, then using airline credit cards for a specific strategy like the Southwest Companion Pass would be the way to go to get amazing value. And to see how you can get this Companion Pass for 2 whole years by just getting 2 Southwest credit cards, check out this video next.